Well, good morning there, Danny. How are you today?
It is great. It is a fantastic morning. That is definitely what it is. I'm so glad we are here on this podcast about Orson Welles.
Thank you. Yes, I'm glad too. I saw an interesting clip of him. Well, I like all the clips of Orson Welles. I like that people are putting words in his mouth when they want to support some cause. I don't know, like whatever. I saw him in something that was like against transphobia, and it's nice because I had no idea what Orson Welles thought about trans people, but nice that we all know his voice enough that, like, yes, if he said this, it would be very powerful.
Well, does Maurice LaMarche do cameos? That's a good way to get around it too.
I don't know who that is.
He's the voice actor for the Brain of Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, I've never seen that show, but perhaps.
Oh, he's just an Orson Welles impression. The Brain is just an Orson Welles impression. There's an entire episode where he goes, "Pinky, why are you trying to get me to sell these frozen peas?" That's my really bad Orson Welles impression. There's an entire episode about the pea commercial, basically. It's the only time I think in the entire show they actually go full tilt into this is an Orson Welles joke and to do an episode about frozen peas.
I like that you gave him a little bit of Peter Lorre. Like, that's your Orson Welles, has a little sprinkle of that in there,
I can
too.
probably do, if I tried for Peter Lorre, it's probably one of those things where, you try and... Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing. I just thought of something that is not something worth laughing about. I can explain what it is. But I feel like Peter Lorre, it's like, if I try for Peter Lorre, I'm going to get closer to Orson Welles. If I try for Orson Welles, I'm going to get closer to Peter Lorre. But what I was thinking of that was bad.
Sure. Tell us all.
Well, I think that the news that came out recently about Justin Roiland is awful. I believe women. I 100% believe there's something wrong and there's more people coming out about it. And yeah, it's just terrible. When you hear someone in power abusing their power and becoming like, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of wondering how you're going to flip this, because I think it would be a little too easy to use the word but as your conjunction, so I'm expecting like a however, or in this case, maybe it'll be a well, I don't know. I'm kind of wondering what you're about to say.
When this news broke, obviously I texted the people I know who watch Rick and Morty about it, and also just people in general who, this is kind of big. I feel like this is like the first really, not the first one, but in a while, this is the first like big like, holy shit, someone who's awful is actually getting charged with something, who's like famous, other than, well, no, I don't want to get into that because I don't think we need to talk about the other person who is famous who was recently charged with something, because I don't think we have any good takes about it.
It keeps happening, doesn't it?
Yeah, but with Justin Roiland, later that night, I texted Julius and I just go, I just thought about my really bad Rick and Morty impression from college for the first time in years. Because everyone's like, how are they going to do? Because are they going to recast Rick and Morty because there's so many impersonators? But it's also like, well, I think you just kind of have to end Rick and Morty because, like, the main creative force behind it is so terrible. But do you remember my Rick and Morty impression?
No.
That's why I brought it up.
Are you going to audition for me?
Yes, well, it was a bit I'd always do in college where I go like, all right, first I'm going to do the Rick impression, then I'm going to do the Morty impression. Now, before I do this, I'm going to turn down my levels because I know it will peak if I do not turn down my levels before I say this. Okay.
Your levels have been great lately, but go on.
All right, well then I'll bring them back. I'll bring them back. If it peaks, it peaks. All right. give me a lights, camera, action or whatever. Or it's like, right. give me like a slate. Give me like a verbal slate, like audition for.
All right. Danny is auditioning for the part of the abuser, Justin Roiland. We're going to see how he can pull this off if he wants to take over that role. And here we are in sunny California. It's nice, and 3 p.m. Tuesday. All right. Could you state your height, please?
I am 6 foot even.
And where do you live?
Definitely in the area of LA, so you don't need to worry about moving expenses for me.
Okay. Make a note of that. He did not do those parts of his slate in character. I'm worried that he's not dedicated to the part. All right, you
All
can
right.
keep going.
To be
All
clear,
right.
wait. I want to be very clear for
the
this bit. I want to be very clear for this. I am not just petitioning to replace Justin Roiland. He can go to jail or whatever the authorities decide to do with that.
Well, I'm a little amazed by that because here we are at the auditions to replace Justin Roiland.
I'm here to replace the
me...
iconic cartoon characters Rick and Morty.
Okay.
So, can I read for Rick first and then Morty and just do one big audition?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Give me an action, then I'll go.
All right. Action.
Hey, Morty, yeah, I have a crazy idea.
What is it, Rick?
All right, cut. Thank you. Yeah, lots to think about.
That was always my dumb bit in college. When people would be like, when Rick and Morty would come out at the parties, I'd be like, hey, I have a really good impression of Rick and Morty. And I'd always do exactly that. Because I think my Rick is like the average college bad impression, but you can tell it's trying to be Rick impression. But then the joke is, this is me explaining the joke and why I thought it was so funny, but it always would work. And hopefully everyone listening who never heard this bit before laughed at it. But the Rick is average to okay to good, whatever you want to call it. But then the Morty is just like a demonic Morty voice. And it sounds absolutely nothing like it.
Yeah.
It's a good bit. Don't you think it's a good bit? I was one of my favorite bits I did in college.
Incredible, really. I think you'll get the part. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, welcome to Looking for the Ocean, where we watch everything Pixar has ever made. That includes features, short films, tech demos, and more. What can we learn about movies and ourselves from one of the most financially successful and influential film studios of the 21st century? I'm Danny Vincent. And as always, I'm joined by Mark Young. Hi, Mark. What's your Rick and Morty impression?
My Rick and Morty impression? I never really watched Rick and Morty. I never was much of a into Rick and Morty fan.
I've watched like 4 episodes of it, and then I was kind of like, not for me.
Yeah. I mean, there are like moments from it, like everyone talks about the screenplay episode, and I think I watched that because I was nervous that it would call me out for something, so I had to check that out. And that's actually, I think, where I got that idea that like you shouldn't start with a flash forward and then do a flashback. It was something, I don't know if it was like a Dan Harmon quote or whatever, but the idea of like a story being linear has been very intriguing to me. I don't know. It seems, now that I've noticed it, it seems like no one does that. Like pretty much everyone just starts a story whenever they want and then jumps around as it's interesting. But
I'm the worst at telling stories. We know that here. I'm the worst at telling stories. I'll be like, well, this happened. Oh, I forgot about that. Which is why I never write.
You're the only one who, well, okay, I see this as a bit we're doing.
Wait, what am I the only one who does? No, I'm curious where that was going to go.
Because you're the one who writes stories here. You're a published playwright. No, you're not. You're not actually published.
I am a performed playwright. There is a difference.
You're an in-demand playwright. You're a professional playwright, actually.
It's true. I was recently contacted to say, hey, do you have any ideas for a Christmas play? And I was like, not immediately, but hey, I know Sherlock Holmes and Winnie the Pooh are in the public domain, so give me a couple months and I'll think of something with the 2 of them.
Bruh, why did you should have just said, yes, I've got one. Give me a week. What do you mean?
Oh, well, no, I was told it wasn't going to be, it's not a rough, it's this, okay, it's the same guy who I did Maria Kent for. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll give you some time to think of it. I would want it to be good. I'm like, great, cool.
Well, thank God.
Yeah.
Because
if it was someone new, I'd probably be like, yeah, definitely. Let me give me, yeah, you know, but if it's someone who I already worked with, so it's like, yeah, you can give me some time.
Great. Yeah, that'd be great if you had like a Sherlock Holmes Winnie the Pooh crossover.
Yeah. What else is in the public domain recently?
Oh, Metropolis is in the public domain.
I don't know Metropolis well enough to do it.
Oh, exactly. Man. That was one of the coolest
Isn't It's a Wonderful Life in the public domain? Isn't that why it's like always available to watch?
I don't think it's in the public domain, and I'd be very surprised if it was.
Is it His Girl Friday that's in the public domain? I should remake His Girl Friday, but make it a romance between Sherlock Holmes and Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah. How would that go?
It would be... See, here's the bit. you expect it to be different, but I just copy the screenplay word for word, but have the byline Winnie the Pooh and Sherlock Holmes delivering the lines. Oh, but the cop can be Piglet because cops.
I guess it is in the public domain. So there
It's
you
Wonderful
go.
Life or Disco Friday.
It's a Wonderful Life is in the public domain.
Awesome. Well, Clarence is going to be Sherlock Holmes.
And then
Or
Winnie
actually,
the Pooh
honestly,
is
it's
like,
something. Well, I bet you there has been like a Winnie the Pooh, It's a Wonderful Life parody at some point, like canonically from Disney. I'm sure it has happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's a stock plot line. Maybe that's why so many cartoons. Maybe that's why Shrek 4 did it.
have a Sherlock Holmes plotline or It's a Wonderful Life plotline?
It's a Wonderful Life plotline. I wouldn't be surprised if Sherlock Holmes popped up in a Shrek movie either.
I don't think I've seen Shrek 4, so I'm not like...
Shrek 4 is the second worst. Well, I guess third worst if you count the Puss movies. So I
Yeah.
guess it's mid-tier.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't know if I'll get around to seeing The Last Wish, but on my radar.
I have to say this. I just published a letterbox list this week titled, well, I'm not going to read it, the title, because I don't care. But the basic gist of it is 2022 movies that I really like, but their fan bases are so obnoxious, I kind of wish I hated them. And they're
That
everything
sounds like
Everywhere
an
All
evil list.
It's Everywhere Ever All at
I'm
Once and
sorry.
Puss in Boots. It's every... The fan
I'm
bases
sorry,
for both
I
of
can't
them
support you.
They're
in
bad
this
fan
endeavor.
bases, Mark. They're bad fan bases.
Okay.
The Puss in Boots
Extricate
fan base...
yourself.
Okay, well, Everything Ever All at Once is kind of self-explanatory. You just need, like, literally, the director had to go on Twitter and issue an apology for the fan base saying, hey guys, knock it off. It's really weird you're doxing these film critics because they didn't include my movie on their greatest films of the year list. It's really weird.
Well, I had no
Don't do
idea
that.
about any of that.
Please don't do that.
Well,
And the Puss in Boots fan base is just like, oh my god, they won't shut up about this movie. And it's not like the type of thing. Okay, here's the thing. I'm a big fan of Avatar: The Way of Water. And when I make these comments to people, they go like, well, the Avatar fan base is annoying because they're bragging about their movie doing well. I'm like, no, here's the thing about the Avatar fan base. Is you put them through a decade of saying no one was going to give a shit about this movie. So now they're eating all the crow they can because they've been the butt of the joke for 10 years. That is extremely different to me than someone who watches Puss in Boots and goes, oh my gosh, this is the greatest piece of media to ever depict a panic attack ever. Or, and I'm just like, no, the people who are watching this movie are not people who will seek out movies that feature panic attacks. Or like, it's not even just that. It's literally just like, this movie has the greatest, like, it's constantly like, and I think every year we're all at once fan base has the same problem too, is I don't care if you're a fan base that puts down other fan bases, because that is what I expect from toxic fandom. What I hate is this attitude of like, this is the best thing I've ever seen, and if you ask me to name other movies I've seen, I'm not going to name them. That is what's so obnoxious to me.
I suppose. I feel you're asking for like a level of obnoxiousness that doesn't seem to be present in an obnoxious fan base.
I think the Puss in Boots fan base is so annoying. I generally, like, makes me wish I hated the movie, how people are talking about that movie.
You gotta like turn off that part of. I gotta say, I've been getting more into
You want to know what
Twitter
the issue
lately.
is? It's because of this Elon Musk guy.
That's what I hear. Well, regardless of all the Elon Musk stuff, I've been getting more into using Twitter. Sort of. I mean, I could transfer to other social media sites and things like that.
I love Twitter.
But just because being on the internet in the winter months, and sometimes you have time to go see what people are up to. But like other sites, I'm actually getting a lot out of it. I only follow like 5 people that I care to know what they think about anything. And
Do you have the app?
keeps,
Or do you just go... What do you have, an iPhone?
I have an Android.
Have you got the... This is what I was going to say, is I blame Elon for this, is because, for me, the recent update they have brings back the For You tab, which it defaults to, and you can't turn off the defaulting to. So... The thing about Twitter has always been to me is like, I always go for my own feed, and then I would go to like you could go to search, you look at the trending topics, and it's like topics for you, where it'd be like Ryan Johnson tweets. And Twitter knows me well enough not to give me like things where it's like, The Last Jedi sucks when it's Ryan, but you know what I mean? Or like film news tweets, or the Toronto International Film, like, like it's chosen for you topics. And I'd always scroll for those. Those are gone now, I believe. And now the only thing I can do is the For You thing. So inherently, I just start going there, and it's like, I see these things where it's like, oh yeah, Puss in Boots is incredible. What a phenomenal feature. And I'm just like, just shut up, fuck this movie. It's good.
Well, yeah,
Stop pretending it's amazing.
That's the problem, is you're interacting with people that you hate. I go on Twitter and I open up my, like, the 5 people that I can.
Sorry, go on. I just think animation Twitter in general is like the worst part of Twitter.
But like, why are you on it? And I don't know. This is not how I use Twitter.
Okay.
I go on and I'm like, I'm not going on to be like, what does some rando think about some topic that I care about? Look, I cannot abide that.
I mean, a part of it also, though, isn't scrolling. You need to remember also I'm in a group chat where people share these tweets. And not necessarily dunk on them, sometimes to agree with them. And I just think it's so funny. Sorry, I get what you're saying, Mark, but I'm addicted to the internet, so it's probably not a problem that's going to be solved anytime soon. But
this is fine.
The other thing to me is I send this to people, and they're like, well, where's Doctor Strange? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, Wanda stands are so annoying. I'm like, no, that's different. I can deal with people saying, like, this is my favorite character. She can crush all your favorite characters. Because that's normal to me. Like, that is something that's always been a part of, like, fandom on the internet. That someone's like, this is my favorite character. Wanda was right to, like, try to kill people. You know, like, it's just a part of the internet. It's just part of fandom. This trend of people being like, this movie's great. I don't want any suggestions for other movies because I know this is the one. More people need to be talking about this, even though it's trending every single day. It's just like, get off of it. And it's more, I'll be very honest. As someone who is a huge Everything Everywhere All at Once fan, it is my favorite movie of last year. And I do think the fan base is annoying. I can tune that out way more than I can tune out this Puss in Boots shit. I'm sorry. The Puss in Boots stuff is just everywhere to me right now. And it doesn't help that some people I follow retweet some of it. And I'm just like, I want to unfollow you because you are retweeting this stuff where it's like, because it really is just that tweet where it's like, this panic attack is so beautifully rendered. And I'm just like, ooh, like, this is nothing new. Like, they might be using the new language of calling it a panic attack, but I have seen this before in multiple animated movies. I've seen this before in normal movies too. And I say normal movies, I know this is a podcast where we talk about animated movies, but to me, it's just like, it's kind of like this whole thing. Well, here's the thing. I'm really, and this is me going back to my nemesis this award season, which, if you remember, most people's nemesis is the whale. Mine is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
I thought it was Cate Blanchett.
No, because Cate Blanchett is kind of my nemesis, but it's also like, she's good. But also, I think Cate Blanchett, the vibe I get from Cate Blanchett is honestly, I feel like she doesn't want to win. Like, and I kind of respect that. Like, she ditched the Globes, so she didn't have to give a speech that night. And her speech at the Critics' Choice was kind of like, wow, guys, another one for the shelf. I don't know why you're giving this to me. So to me, it's kind of, I get the vibe that she's like, she kind of doesn't want to win. She's campaigning the movie, you get what I mean? Because she has to press for the movie. But I don't think she really wants to win, which I kind of respect, even though I still think she's probably going to win. I'm going to get mad at her. But no. The villain to me this award season is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. And the reason why is, one, I think the movie is, I think it's fine. It's a 7 out of 10. And it's very rare I'm being honest about this movie, because anytime someone talks about this movie, I'm like, it sucks. Because the ending gets me really mad. I think the ending is terrible. And also, it's getting so much, unlike Puss in Boots, where I'm like, no, this is still really good. The praise for Pinocchio to me is just like, I just don't get it at all. I'm like, it's fine. It's kind of like Banshees and Inisherin I had a similar response to, but difference of Banshees and Inisherin is, it really comes down to this, okay? If Guillermo del Toro believes that animation is cinema, which I fully believe he does, but if he believes that animators deserve just as much respect as live action filmmakers do, what he should have done, and I've been saying this the entire award season, is if you want to put out Pinocchio this year, you can, but you should be campaigning more for the animator, Henry Selick, who made a stop-motion movie. It took him 13 years to get the budget for, rather than you, who's been doing this on the side for years and don't have to worry about it. And this whole thing where he's going up on stage going, animation is cinema. I'm like, no. The only reason your movie won is because you put your name in the title. Because that's really the fact of it, is that, like, I'll be very honest. Do you know what is nominated at the Producers Guild Awards? Did I send you this for Best TV Movie?
No, I have not seen what the Producers Guild nominated for Best TV Movie.
They've nominated the Zemeckis Pinocchio, which I can almost guarantee you is because they thought it was the Del Toro Pinocchio, and they saw, oh, Pinocchio, that's an option. I'll vote for that. It's Del Toro's. And it's just, I'm sorry, I know you haven't seen it, but it's like everything,
Actually,
the songs in it. You have?
Yeah, I'm actually working through it.
I think don't you think the songs are fucking terrible?
I do. Actually, it's actually amazing. I didn't want to like interrupt you, but like it is. I think Pinocchio would be like top Del Toro for me if not for the songs. I fast forward through them.
My villain origin story, which is going to get worse once the actual Oscar noms are out. By the time this episode is out, the Oscar noms are out, so you will find out if I've become a supervillain yet. But my beginning of my villain origin story this award season was when the shortlist for the songs at the Oscars came out, and Nobody Like You from Turning Red was not on it, but Ciao Papa from Pinocchio was. And I was just like, excuse me? There is one good song in Pinocchio, and it's definitely not this dumb one about the kid just going, Ciao Papa, Ciao Papa. That song sounds like it sounds like, so there's Johnny Johnny Yes Papa, and then there's the rip-off version that's trying not to get DMCA'd by the people who actually make Johnny Johnny Yes Papa on YouTube. That is what Ciao Papa is to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like they just took the Alexander Desplat's normal music and put lyrics over it. So it kind of has that.
The score is so good too. It's like, why is the score good? You're ruining with these songs.
Yeah, just very bizarre. I would love to read something about how they did the songs in that film, because they don't even like. They don't even seem to function like songs and other things. So I don't know. I'm very curious about that. It seems wildly out of place, but
yeah, that's really the thing to me, is like the whole, and it really is to me, and I do like Guillermo del Toro, and I think he's done so much for cinema, but it's just the whole vibe of being like, oh yeah, animation needs so much more respect, but you're not really campaigning for your animator who's at your same studio. And that's the thing to me, is like that usually studios send people to campaign together. That's more. And I know Henry Selick has done some events with Del Toro, but Del Toro's like everywhere. And it's like, I think Del Toro should be pushing his movie as much as his own. If he really wants to say, I love animation, because one, he's your colleague and you guys are working together, like at the same studio. And honestly, here's the real story is, to me, is like, living animators who don't have an Oscar who deserve one. I think Henry Selick is definitely like the absolute top of that list. I can't think of another animator who's working who hasn't got an Oscar who deserves it as much as him. In fact, I would posit that if he does not have another movie lined up in the next 3 years, like in production, I'd say the animation branch should seriously talk about giving him an honorary one, because he really should have one. It's insane that he doesn't, considering how much he pushed forward stop motion. And also just like, it just gets me mad. It really does just get me mad. It is just like, it does. Okay, I'm gonna also remove Henry Selick from the equation, because I am a Henry Selick fan, despite hating his first two movies, as we've documented on this podcast. But Del Toro there's this whole trend everywhere. I think it started before last year. It started really, I feel like, with Mitchells and the Machines. That's when like these animators started really pushing it, where it's like, animation is cinema. Like, that is their buzz phrase. And I see people get like mad. I remember this happened earlier this year. Some animation Twitter, again, I know they're monsters, but hear me out. They all started bagging this review of The Bad Guys that was 3 out of 4 that was like, it will entertain your kids. It's like, excuse me, animation isn't for children. I'm like, that is literally based off a book that says ages 8 to 12 on the back of it. It is for children. Just because it is entertaining to adults too, doesn't mean that you can't say this is made for children, because it's literally based off a children's book. And don't take everything as an offense. But moreover, also, it's like, if animation is cinema, why are we only treating Guillermo del Toro's animation as cinema? Does that make sense to me? Does that make sense to you? Sorry.
Well, I think that this is kind of a snapshot of like, I don't know. I'm not really sure about the context that you're presenting this in, because I don't not think that animation is cinema. And I know that anytime Hayao Miyazaki releases a film, it's like, it's the greatest thing in the world. And
I mean, I think animation is cinema too. I just think the buzz phrase is stupid. That's really it. It's like, if animation is cinema, you guys should... Here's the thing. It's really... And we can get off this topic, but if animation is cinema, which it is, and I guess apparently we need to start saying that because people just think it's cartoons for babies, whatever, then the people who are in power in animation should be actually uplifting the animated films by auteurs that are smaller. Because if Guillermo del Toro wants to say that animation is cinema, why isn't he dropping like Wendell and Wild or Mad God in every single interview about this movie? Where he's like, my movie sits alongside Mad God and Wendell and Wild. Stuff like that. Like, why is he not uplifting these? Why is not... And actually, here's the thing is, like, I actually think Phil Lord and Chris Miller do a good job of this. Because those are also... I mean, they started animation, that's why. But they're live-action filmmakers who do a lot of animation, too. And when they do interviews, they'll be like, oh, yeah, we saw Soul, and we wanted to get Kent Powers on board. And I know Soul's a big Pixar movie. My point is they don't talk about stuff that's directly related to them. I'm just like... It's really just... It gets me mad. Because these people who are like, oh, man... It's like, you see this viral tweet, right? And this is a viral tweet outside of animation. It's like, animation didn't have to go so hard this year. And these don't even have Disney movies on it. And it's like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, Puss in Boots and Bad Guys. And then I think it's like, they usually like include Marcel the Shell with shoes on it. And I'm just like, okay, these are all these outside of Marcel the Shell, all these are incredibly mainstream movies. They're not being persecuted. Marcel the Shell definitely isn't being persecuted by anyone either. None of these are being like bagged on by people. Where it's like the appreciation, why aren't people being like, hey, check out Mad God. Hey, check out... It's really just like, these people are like, yeah, animation can tell so many different stories and so many different art forms. And then they just push the same PG-rated family movies anyway. Like...
Sure. I think you want something that just cannot happen. Like, even when you mentioned that Phil Lord and Chris Miller want Ken Powers from Soul, like, it's noticeable that in Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, he's using a lot of his live-action regulars who, honestly, like, some of them aren't the best voice actors. That's just not part of the story of that film. And I think that, like, you know, I don't know. It doesn't seem exclusionary. I think that Wendell and Wild was not as well received by everyone else as...
I think Wendell and Wild wasn't seen by anyone. I think Wendell and Wild never got the marketing it needed because Netflix wanted to focus on Pinocchio. I think it is bonkers to me that a movie made by the director Night Before Christmas and Coraline and written by Jordan Peele did not get a huger push, regardless of like the mixed... And we say mixed reception in the movie. I think it has like a 77% Rotten Tomatoes, which is around the lines, I believe, of like The Bad Guys.
Yeah, it's not bad. I think this is more of like a Netflix shady backrooms deal issue more than a Guillermo del Toro issue.
I think Guillermo del Toro has power enough to overcome a Netflix. I think he just wants another Oscar. That's the thing to me. I think he wants an Oscar for his pet project, which is completely valid, but it comes back to the Cate Blanchett thing again, where it's like, you already have one, dude. Like...
I mean, it's kind of an impossible ask, you know? How can you campaign for a film that came out in the same year in the same category and just, like, drop your own thing, you know?
I think you can, personally. I see Cate Blanchett. I see she's currently campaigning for Andrea Riceborough and To Leslie, which is probably a joke that will be outdated by this episode being out, but it's true. She is doing it. I see. I'm trying to think of who else I've seen in like awards movies who campaign for other people. I think. I can't think off the top of my head of anyone this year, but I know in the past I've definitely seen like, you know, I think the year Minari came out, I think a lot of the other actors who were in big movies that year were like, yeah, make sure you check out Minari, and like they hosted screenings, like big actors. Well, I guess they didn't host screenings because it was COVID,
well, but there's
you know
not
what I mean?
like a but there's not like a categorical overlap. If like the people, I don't know what came out in the same year that Minari came out, but like if someone in The Irishman is like, check out Minari, you know, they're not going to be like fighting each other for things like that. If it's like Netflix has two movies, both that are like Netflix products, you can't like pit the directors against each other. You kind of gotta like settle on one, otherwise you're gonna split the votes. I don't know.
Not in the nomination
I just don't
phase.
think that
That's
like.
not in the nomination phase. You don't.
Well, I don't know. I just.
Anyway, this will be revealed by the time the episode's out. We can move on. I know I'm hammering it home too hard, but my actual villain origin story will be, and everyone will know by now when they listen to this if I'm a supervillain or not, is if Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio somehow gets a screenplay nomination for adapted screenplay. That will be my actual villain origin story. I will go burn down the Academy.
It's got a fine screenplay nomination. It's got a fine screenplay. As opposed to what?
Mark, it comes down to this thing where we look at a medium that is often overlooked, and what gives it attention? The title Guillermo del Toro in front of Pinocchio. That is the only reason this movie would ever get that nomination, because the screenplay is fine.
Yeah, I mean, this is my beef with like every other nominated film forever.
If Soul could not crack a top 5 original screenplay category in 2020, the year of COVID, you cannot tell me that any other animated movie since then has deserved any, because the adapted screenplay category is way more competitive this year than the original screenplay was in 2020. The animation bias is only being overcome because Guillermo del Toro's name is slapped on the movie. All right, I have one other thing I wanted to talk about. I watched The Last of Us pilot.
I did not. How did it go? Was he Pedro Pascalin?
So, yes, he was. He was actually pretty good. I say that like it was a surprise that Pedro Pascal was good on something. No, he's always great. My take on it, in a sentence, because my brother said, let me know what you think of it when you watch it. The only thing I texted him was, my take is that television episodes shouldn't be 85 minutes long.
Oh yeah, you would. I did see that, but you wouldn't have liked those like double-parter Game of Thrones episodes when they came out.
I wouldn't
something
have.
like that going on.
I found out afterwards. What happened was HBO wanted to have Ellie, who's like the female lead of the show, in the first episode, but the way the story broke, and even when they were shooting it, was the pilot was not going to have Ellie in it at all. And the second episode would have introduced Ellie. And they're like, we don't want that. So how about you guys just combine your first 2 episodes into one? And as soon as they told me, I read that, I was like, this makes so much sense, because the first 45 minutes are great and fantastic. But then all of a sudden, all the story momentum stops and like rebuilds up again. And I hate... Here's my take on television that I'm sure I've said before, but probably not as explicitly as this, is the reason I like movies more than TV, obviously, like that is just obvious talking to me. I don't think I need to explain that part. But where I think television fits in nice is that I like watching one episode at a time, and then letting that digest, and then watching another episode. Because then you can, it's like reading a good book and like splitting up the chapters and like enjoying it that way. I do not binge television ever. And if I do like watch 2 episodes of a show in the day, it's usually I will watch an episode, then do something for 2 hours and watch another episode. To me, I just immediately will lose my attention in something if like the momentum restarts, right? Unless it's like a comedy. I guess a comedy is different, but like in something like Succession or House of the Dragon or Last of Us, after about an hour, I'm going to lose interest. And sure enough, as soon as that cutoff point hit, I was like, damn, this is great. And it just kept going. And I was like, if I had known that was a cutoff point, I would have paused it and watched the rest of the next day, and I probably would have liked it way more. But am I going to revisit a 50-minute episode I didn't like the first time? No.
What happened? Were there zombies?
Well, actually, there wasn't any zombies in the second episode. Well, the second half of the first episode. I guess I should be very clear, because this episode will be coming out after the second episode's out. But I've only seen the pilot, but I'm going to keep referring to it as episode 1, episode 2, because first part was great, and there was a lot of zombies in the first part. And then the second part happens, and it's just all this table setting, and it's like, okay, but like, this isn't how story structure works. You can't give me a prologue that is half the length of your episode, and then just give me an episode afterwards. And I don't, like it's very. I know it's a me problem. I know it's 100% a me problem. If they had put out these episodes at the same time, and like episode 1 and episode 2 and just aired them as like one after the other and just put them on HBO Max like that, probably be like more positive on the show. But it's literally just like I can't watch more than one episode at once. That's just not how my viewing habits work.
I'm sorry that this has to be my take. I cannot be like so negative about stuff that I think is, I don't know, man. Some of this shit's just gonna be lost in the wind.
You haven't watched The Last of Us.
Yeah, I know, but like,
I don't know. To me, it's a real issue because people have been telling me for years, Danny, you should play The Last of Us, and I've always been like, no, that's stupid. I don't play video games. Here comes this show, got rave reviews. I said grave reviews. I don't know why. Rave reviews. An actor I really like in the lead, and you know what? I am totally open to finally experiencing this story. And for capitalistic reasons, if I want to get very dramatic about it, but it's true, the story structure of the pilot is completely fucked. So that's why it gets me mad. That's really it. And I know it does. I mean, I'll keep watching, and I'll probably still like the show, but it's a bummer to like be excited for something and to be let down, and then find out afterwards you could have like consumed this a different way, and you probably would have liked it more.
I know
this isn't like the Guillermo del Toro thing where I was like going on a rant against a famous guy who's never going to know I exist. This is to me. It's just kind of like it's a bummer that like these episodes are released like this. It makes me sad.
I don't know. It's not even that. I just like to me. I mean, you said it yourself. Pinocchio is like fine, and I think Wendell and Wild is fine too. But it's just like I don't know. It's sort of famous that like Oscar movies and award season movies are kind of excessively fine, and so there are like these fine award season movies in my mind, and then there are like art films outside of that, and it's really not true to say that there are like awards movies and then there are art films, because there's a lot of overlap. But I don't think it does any good to films to like treat them like award season movies. I just can't like live in that world for so long. And especially to be like, I don't know, man, if Wendell and Wild is great, like I hope Henry Selick gets a lot of money, and I hope that it like lives on, as I'm sure it will. It'll have like long-term cult appeal.
See, I think you're correct to call me out on the Oscar shit. 100%. I always hate how I come during award season, and then later on in June, I'm like, I don't even care about Oscars. But then award season comes along, I'm like, this and this and this. These people are annoying me, blah, blah, blah. But what I will say is, to me, I think with Wendell Wild and Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, I think they are intertwined. I think the marketing push for Wendell Wild was inherently muted because they would rather have pushed Pinocchio and they didn't want to push both. I think Wendell and Wild was buried on the surface, and I don't know anyone who's watched it who, like, I don't know anyone who, like, happened upon it on Netflix by accident. I think it was very deliberately buried, not necessarily towards push Pinocchio, but just because, hey, well, we have other Halloween shit to push. We have... I swear this is not... I'm not going after Del Toro for this. We have the Guillermo del Toro show to push instead. You know? It's like, though... Or whatever the haunting of whatever was this year. You know? Like, whatever that show was. And... to me...
This year's haunting of whatever. Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it.
And so to me, it's kind of more just like the Netflix of it all, really. It's not even the award season of it all. But it's also like, man... I really like that movie, and people talk to me like I'm crazy because I like that movie. I put up my Henry Selick rankings every day. I put it as my favorite one, Wendell and Wild. And it's just like, you know, this should have been a movie that was seen. It doesn't have to be a movie that was liked. I am fine with being the minority on a movie that was seen, but I really don't feel like people saw that movie.
Yeah.
And that's
no, I don't think you're crazy about that. And I agree with you. I do think that there is a big audience for Wendell and Wild that, as far as I know, is untapped. I don't know how, like, you know, no one knows the numbers, but I definitely think that it's like special and people should see it, even though I'm kind of like, oh, whatever. But yeah, I get
Well, you
that
know what?
part.
You know what did do well? The
Mm.
Last of Us.
The Last of Us. That's what I hear. I know The Last of Us from clips online of like really violent action or cutscenes, and
Oh,
that intrigues me about it. So I was kind of wondering if that was present in the show. That's the part that I would
I don't
see
think
it
I'm
for. Is
there
like,
yet.
okay,
Basically, what I've been told is where we've reached the show is the end of the tutorial level. So it's
oh,
like,
okay,
okay. So, like, real stuff will start happening next episode, I guess. But also, I don't know. Like, I think. I think it's going to be interesting when the show's over to see, like, what the takes on it are. Because I did see some people point out that, like, apparently there's a sequence in it that is, like, a shot-for-shot recreation of, like, a scene from the game. And I'm just kind of like, if I'd played the game, this would actually probably annoy the shit out of me. But, like, since I haven't played the game, I don't even notice it. And, like, the whole idea of, like, video game adaptations are notoriously awful. Here's something that's being good and pushed as, like, the prestige HBO show, but also is, like, getting great reviews. It's got great actors in it. But, also, in a way, I'm watching the first two the pilot, not the first two episodes, the pilot, and I'm just like, this is just, like, clips I've seen of The Walking Dead. Like, I don't see what's special here. People are like, well, the relationship between Joel and Ellie will become special. I'm like, yeah, but it's still just like, the dad with an adopted daughter. What makes this special? Like, I'm curious. Because I feel like what makes The Last of Us special is that it's a video game, So I'm curious when this is all said and done, will we actually, like, consider this, like, a special season of television? Or, like, even will we consider House of the Dragon level television where it's like, that was really fun and good, and I'm looking for the next one? Or will it be viewed more like, that was an interesting adaptation of a game that was very good if you haven't played the game, but otherwise it just kind of exists as, like, the 4K remaster of the original. I don't know. I haven't played the game also, so, like, I'm not the person to ask about it. I'm just curious where the discourse will lead.
Well, I think if it does well for 2 episodes or so, I think it'll just get a second season.
Oh, well, I mean, that's not what I'm not worried about getting renewed. I'm sure it will get renewed. Like HBO. I mean, Warner Bros. Is in a rough spot right now, but also, like, it's probably gonna be a huge hit for them, and it's a very popular game.
Yeah.
But my question is more on the nature of video game adaptations and how there have always been bad movies. It's like, well, here's a show that's incredibly faithful to the game. Are we going to start getting, like, faithful remakes of our, like, TV shows? Like, faithful TV shows off video games? Because I know the Halo show, which I didn't watch, obviously, because I don't have Paramount Plus, so why would I watch a Halo show even if I did? Like, I know the Halo show is, like, not great. But this is, like, very, very loyal to the game. It has the original writer involved, like, as a co-showrunner. So, like, I don't know. I'm just curious. I'm curious where the idea of us finally having a good video... It's really more like the idea of it being a good video game adaptation. And when we've never had one of those before, what will this lead to in the future?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the marketing push for this show, isn't it? That it is a good video game and it's like you said, it's like so what else is there? I feel like
Sonic?
things like
The Mario movie?
yeah. Well, I actually think that things like Avatar 2 are, like, air quotes, good video game adaptations.
Oh, I think Gemini Man's a great video game adaptation.
Is that
That's
what? Oh,
Gemini Man.
I know what you're talking about, but I couldn't say about Gemini Man. But, like, I don't know. I hope that's kind of another thing. I'm like, this isn't actually a real conversation. It's like a show outside of being a video game show. So, is it a good drama? Is it a good family story? I don't know if you can, like, analyze it as a video game.
I mean, the first 45 minutes shows a lot of promise of it being, like, a nice, emotional, character-driven show. And then we get to whatever's considered the tutorial level of the game.
Yeah. Did you ever play Metal Gear Solid games?
No, I am a bad gamer. So, no.
Well, I'm not a good gamer either, but this is kind of a tangent because it's actually the opposite of what we're talking about. It's about games which are movie-like.
Well, The Last of Us is like that, I hear. But go on. Like the game The Last of Us. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really just making a recommendation here. Some people have gone online and put together, like, compilations of every cutscene from Metal Gear Solid games into, like, 3 and 4 hour movies. And this might be something that you're not into, but I'm into, but this is not related to anything. I just kind of recommend to anyone who's interested, if you've never played Metal Gear Solid and wonder what all the fuss is about, go online and watch these giant compilation videos, because they're really interesting, and it's like a lot of great characters. If you could, it's super fun, but also like very misogynistic at times. It's such like it's its thing. But
hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Eventually on this podcast, hopefully, we will cover some video game cutscenes. I hope.
Really? When?
Hope so. Well, there is a video. I don't want to say it because I don't want to reveal it, but I'm very excited to talk about it when we get to it.
Okay. Surprise.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you have anything going on in your life?
I wanted to mention something that I didn't mention last time about the opera that I saw, and then also I messaged you that I saw Ohio State Murders with Audra McDonald, which is an
I didn't know she was in that, actually. You didn't say that she was in it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's on Broadway. It's a big show. And I was like, okay.
Oh, you know who Audra McDonald is?
Yeah, of course I do.
Oh, well, I don't know. Some people don't.
She's an icon.
Yeah, well, she was in it, and it's an adaptation of an Adrienne Kennedy play. Anyway, I originally wanted to spend Christmas money trying to get rush shows to the opera, but they're really hard to get, like the Met Opera.
Yeah.
So I saw the Japan Society show and then this Ohio State Murder thing because it was Audra McDonald in an Adrienne Kennedy play, and it's apparently a play that I own and like an Adrienne Kennedy reader that I've never gotten to. Anyway, about that show, script was fantastic. I hated the production, but there was an interesting undergraduate arts media studies exercise in both of the shows, because they both did something where they used a piece of cloth to be another person. In the Ohio State Murders play, Audra McDonald's character has 2 kids, and each one is represented by a little pink rag, and then she treats them like children, and that was very impressive because she really went for it. And then in A Note from a Friend, which was the opera that I saw, a scarf represents the character's mother who dies. Awesome. And it was I wanted to share this with you, and I'm curious what you think about it, because it was really revealing for me to see how they used these rags as people in both of these productions, because I thought the Ohio State Murders was terrible, and basically these rags were babies the whole time. Like every time they were on stage, they were babies. But in the opera A Note from a Friend, the scarf was also a scarf on like a coat rack, and then sometimes it was like an actual scarf, and then sometimes the actor would hold it on the floor as if he was talking to his mother on the bed, and then when she died, he held up the scarf and let it drop. And that was just something I wonder, maybe it's that simple, but I don't think it is, that I appreciated more the flowing use of the scarves and rags in the opera versus Ohio State Murders, because it just kind of seemed ridiculous to me, and it kind of begged the question of why there weren't children on stage, versus if you use the fabric for other things, then it doesn't always make you feel like, well, why don't you just have some woman on stage playing the mother? So I know you didn't see this, but I wonder if you run into that or you've seen that elsewhere, because it's something that tickles my brain a lot. Like, how can you get the most out of minimal props and not make it look cheap? That's something I think is very important to think about. I wonder if you've seen anything.
Very professional productions, because... No, sorry, go on. I thought you were done. Sorry.
Oh, I kind of am. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I like seeing stuff like that in big shows. I feel like something not the same, but kind of similar. I remember telling my dad after I saw To Kill a Mockingbird with you that Scout's played by this 35-year-old woman and she's fantastic in it. And my dad's like, what? Why? And I'm like, they're gonna get a kid? And it's like, why would you want to get a kid? She's doing such a great performance, and it's told in this cool memory play way. I am down for this. I don't know if, because it's not new. I don't think it's a new movement. I think I've never really seen theater on Broadway before until 2018. I do think it's maybe popping up a bit more now in these plays because, you know, there's so many plays on Broadway now, and you've got to keep the budget low somewhat. But I also don't think it's a budget choice. I think from what you're saying, they both sound like clear artistic choices that even though you described them for me, I can't really like assess the play because I haven't watched it. But
well, I'm just thinking about like some things seem cheap, some stage effects, and like theater is inherently cheap. So how do you make a choice that's evocative and not a choice that makes you immediately think, why are they not doing this another way? You know, it's just an interesting thing we all have to think about if we're producing something.
In a similar way, it does make me think about, even though you're going to be like, Danny, that's bullshit. You just want to talk about SpongeBob. But I swear, it does make me actually kind of think about the SpongeBob musical.
No, I mean, the SpongeBob musical is a great example of this.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Where it's, like it is designed, like everything on stage is designed to look like it's made out of something. And like, you can actually, it's kind of to me also like, and I got in an argument with someone recently to relate it back to movies because that's what I do. But we were talking about the Oscars, sorry, but this was like we were talking about the 2014 Oscars and how the Lego movie was not nominated that year. And some guy was like, well, Lego movie animation was nowhere near as impressive as Big Hero 6 or like How to Train Your Dragon 2. And I'm like, I strongly disagree because I look at the Lego movie and I'm constantly blown away by like the cool shit they get away with just using by Legos. You know, like the artistic limitation you give yourself, even though you have the money to do like something crazy. You see what I'm saying, right? Because that's what I think SpongeBob does. That's what I think the Lego movie does. Like where it makes like the Lego water that looks mind blowing. Yeah. And like the whole idea of like, well, it's not artistically good because you're not using like that doesn't use like water simulations. Like, and I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like it looks way cooler this way. Or like in SpongeBob where it's like, I'm trying to think of like a specific example because there are so many props in that show that are cool. But like, or like, there's like the number where it's just there's a black light and it's just SpongeBob standing at the edge of the stage and the chorus is just dancing with sponges that are fluorescent. But like it looks really cool.
Yeah, you really have this like a storytelling quality that you can get away with if it's stylized in any way. And I don't know, it's appealing. But then also, it's cheap,
your shows are like more dramatic too, and they're doing this like big thing with them, where it's like emotionally resonating.
Did I ever tell you about Shinya Tsukamoto?
You might have, but re-explain because you can also. I don't think the listeners would know.
Oh yeah. So he directed Tetsuo the Iron Man, but he's also like one of the guys in Silence. Incredible roster of people in Silence.
There's so many people in Silence. I'm like, oh yeah. That's not what it is. Yeah.
Silence is like the Harry Potter movies for British actors. Silence is like that for like Japanese actors. Yeah. But he like started like way long ago as a theater person, and he had this theater called like Kaiju Theater. And I don't think they did like productions of monsters fighting each other. I think it was more symbolic. But like, I don't know, that stuff is so intriguing to me that you can push it so far, but in some classes you take, you're kind of encouraged not to use your imagination too far out of what's in front of you, because then your performance isn't grounded or whatever. Even in a situation like where you have children on stage, you're not supposed to have you're not supposed to not have something there. Like, you're not supposed to mime during an audition. You're supposed to have something in front of you or stand still. It's really intriguing for me to hear about even something I think I misunderstood, where you have like monsters on stage, and how far can you push the limits of what you have cheaply, That's just
I agree. About too. That's something that makes theater really special to me.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like a canned response, but it's like, when I went to go see my play, part of my excitement was just saying like, let's see how you devour the mermaids you have someone be devoured by mermaids on stage. Yeah. Stuff like that. I don't know. It's magical. It's cool. And I don't want to talk about Dear Evan Hansen or Ben Platt, but I do think like, the artifice of the stage is something we're willing to accept more. And that's something that's really cool about it.
Such an old lesson that sometimes we have to relearn every now and then.
By just shooting a play as a movie and realizing how that doesn't just work perfectly.
Very famous people did like that movie, but anyway, I just wanted to geek out about that. It gave me a lot. I love, very rarely do I see theater that I actually really enjoy, It just gives me stress, but I'm just happy to geek out about that.
I'm glad you're happy to geek out about it. I hope I get a good theatrical experience this year at some point. I don't know what movie, well, not what movie, what play I'm
You already had one though. If you saw, you liked your high schoolers.
That was last year. We're in 2023 now.
Oh, yeah. No, we have had no good theatrical experiences this year. But in any case, should we? I don't know if you have anything else you want to talk about.
Nah, we can go to the letterbox. We've been here for a bit. I went almost. We've been here for an hour of me ranting about Guillermo del Toro. All right. The letterbox game.
I don't
What?
know. I don't know. This might be a little like. I have one more thing that might be not cool, but I don't know. It's small, and if you don't want to talk about it, we don't have to. But I was working this gig with somebody. This is not related to anything.
Okay.
But I think about this.
I'm nervous with how you intro this as, even though I might not want to talk about this at all. I'm like, all right.
Well, I don't even know if it's like funny or relevant or just in my own brain. But I was working this catering gig, unrelated to anything. And I'm in the back in the kitchen with this one guy, and you just have like small talk with people. And I remember like two things about this guy is that like he wanted to start this conversation with me about like how his son was very spoiled and he wished that he could hit him. And then another thing he said was also, he was like, yeah, man, you've read Dune, right? I'm really nervous about the new one because like hard to top, like what was that, or like from the 80s, like how do you top the original Dune? And I was like, wow, two strikes with you, man. How do we make this connection?
I have nothing to comment on the first one really, other than gross, but I've had a very similar actual conversation with a coworker of mine where they were like, they're very conservative, and I often talk to them about movies and Marvel stuff. And when we were talking about Dune once, he was like, no, I didn't like the new Dune because it wasn't as good as the one with Sting. And I was like, huh, you like that one? I've never seen it. He's like, dude, you have to watch it. Top 10 movie of all time. I'm like, all right. Because here's the thing is he's like an older guy. This guy's like probably late 40s, early 50s. So when he says that, I go, okay, this is probably one of the more interesting opinions you've given me. Like, I am more interested by you liking the David Lynch Dune movie than pretty much any other entertainment opinion you've given me. So now I kind of want to watch... I still haven't, but when he said that, I was like, I kind of want to watch the David Lynch one now, just so we can discuss it and I can figure out exactly why you like this movie.
Yeah.
I remember he came complaining about... he's very conservative. He came complaining about the Strange World LGBT stuff in it, and I was just like, okay. And then he's like, no, but see, like, I think Lightyear did it really well. And I was like, okay, interesting that you do, like, you're not immediately dismissing it all. I think that I was like, but okay. Also, I don't really want to have this conversation with you anyway, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm sort of bringing it up because, like, how do you, like, how long do you give it to, like, try to find common ground? Because I'm not gonna start any kind of argument, big or small, with this guy while I'm working with him. But, like, I think after that he was like, so we're talking about Marvel or something like that, and he was like, oh man, I just hated She-Hulk. I thought it was terrible. And watching She-Hulk over my roommate's shoulder, I actually liked She-Hulk. So it was like 3 strikes.
I haven't seen it.
How many times does this have to happen before I'm like, man, we disagree on so much? And I would love to hear a story about someone that, like, had that interaction and pushed through and made a connection with someone they have to work with for 6 hours, you know?
I mean, as we talked about last week, my attitude nowadays is just no, fuck you, I refuse. Now, at this point, I've been here too long to bother caring to, like, make these connections, because you genuinely just, I don't know, like, I feel like in general I get along better with people who don't talk to me about movies because my opinions on movies are so like I'm so set in my ways and my takes that like I'll be like my two coworkers are giving me their Letterboxd. Like they don't work with me regularly, but when I do see them, I always like, yo, why'd you give Glass Onion only a 3 out of 5? What do you mean only? I liked it. I'm like, it should be higher. It was better than a 3 out of 5. And they'll be like, okay, calm down. And I'll be like, "Urgh." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Or like,
I run into
like my
very
big thing
few
right now with
movie
Avatar
people.
2 is like people who are like, I thought it was boring. Like, well, what'd you see it in 3D, 2D? I'd be like, well, I don't completely throwing your opinion out then. Like,
But do you tell them like you got to check out the high frame rate?
no, but I have explained to a couple people. I think high frame rate 3D is one of the hardest things to explain. Like IMAX, huge screen, Dolby. The sound system's really great, and there's a 4K projector. High frame rate. All right, so the human eye perceives images at about 100, like 200. Like you have to go into the whole spiel of what frame rate is, how movies are typically projected, explain how 3D movies give you headaches. And then you have to go for the whole spiel, and eventually it's like, yeah, it kind of looks like your TV if you put the smoother on. That's it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. But
Yeah.
I guess we all fail at that. It's something that no one has ever solved, and we'll all die not knowing how to talk to people.
I think there are some solutions. I don't know. The question is more like, I think the question is more of tolerance, if that makes sense. Like how much you're willing to tolerate to try to make a human connection with someone. Because like for example, like the coworker who I think is like, I don't think he is very conservative, and we talk about Marvel. It's like, yeah, I can talk about Marvel with you, but as soon as you start talking like, yeah, I didn't like the gay people in Strange World, I'm immediately like, all right, well, I'm gonna go help the kids out with something. Like, but
You have
there's even like,
such a nice out.
yeah, or like now at work, I have the new people who I just can't stand at all. Where it's like they'll try to crack a joke and connect with me. I'll be like, yeah, okay. And I'll just completely like, I'll literally just go like, yeah, all right, and just immediately just walk away because I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a question of tolerance and how much you're willing to tolerate to try to like keep sane at work. But if you have to tolerate too much, then you're going to be less sane. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, I guess it helps if you can like be on your phone or if you do have some way out.
Yeah. I'm like, I have to go play Uno. Sorry.
You gotta go wreck some kids at Uno.
So, the Letterboxd
Game time?
where Mark tries to guess movies based off movies that Letterboxd says we might also enjoy. So if Letterboxd recommends Big Hero 6 and Megamind, the recommended tab, the movie might be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'll start by giving you the 5 recommended title. After each wrong guess of the original movie, you get more titles or another hint. I'll leave titles out of the recommended list if they have the same director of the original film or if they're in the same franchise. So, for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I wouldn't say The Amazing Spider-Man because it's a Spider-Man movie, nor would I say Rise of the Guardians because it's directed by Peter Ramsey, who also directed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. All right?
Yes.
As always, I have a list of about a month or so of movies, a bit more, and I've sorted them by most popular. So yeah, we'll do the most popular, second most popular, and third most popular. Are you ready for round 1?
Yes.
Your 5 films are The Little Things, Copycat, Insomnia, Memories of Murder, The Snowman, Michael Fassbender.
Wow, I'm glad that we got around to those. I was like, oh man, I'm not gonna know these. All right. Road to Perdition.
It is not Road to Perdition. Road to Perdition is... See, this one is a weird one where I actually have to go because most of these movies I do not recognize the poster of. Road to Perdition is not in the top 25. You need to guess again before you get a hint. You get 2
LA
guesses.
Confidential.
LA Confidential is not in the top 25.
Okay.
Your next hint is the year. The year this movie came out is 2007.
2007. All right. No Country for Old Men.
It is not No Country for Old Men. No Country for Old Men is not in the top 25. So your next hint is Well, your next one is you get 5 additional movies. So I'll give you 5 additional movies and I'll recap all 10 again.
Okay.
So the 5 additional movies you get are The Bone Collector, The Pledge, Taking Lives, The Boston Strangler, Texas Killing Fields. Have you heard of any of these movies?
Yeah. I mean, I think I've heard of The Bone Collector.
All right, so your 10 were The Little Things, Copycat, Insomnia, Memories of Murder, The Snowman, The Bone Collector, The Pledge, Taking Lives, The Boston Strangler, Texas Killing Fields.
Was it that The Lovely Bones?
It was not The Lovely Bones. The Lovely Bones is not in the top 25. Your next hint you get is the actor build, and you haven't hit anything in the top 25, so you will just get the first build actor in this film. Okay?
Yes.
This is going to be really fun because I'm going to mispronounce his name because I always mispronounce this guy's name, but it's Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh.
Or
Is
Gyllenhaal.
it Prisoners?
It is not Prisoners.
Okay.
All right.
I'm close.
So your next hint is, this is the final guess. Do you want the reveal of the director? Or do you want to try one more guess before I give you the director?
I'm going to guess Enemy.
That is incorrect as well.
Okay.
The director is David Fincher.
Okay, Zodiac?
Yes, it's Zodiac.
I didn't know. I thought Zodiac was a 2004 film.
Nope, it's 2007. I had to remove another film
earlier
called The
than that.
Zodiac, which came out in 2005 and also has Philip Baker Hall, which I think is crazy that they're both in, like, he did 2 Zodiac movies in rapid succession. And I also had to remove 7 because that's also Fincher. That's the most popular
I
movie
did
this week.
terribly. All right. When did you watch Zodiac?
Oh, this was when they had a screening of it for the 15th anniversary at the Music Box on 35.
Had you seen it before?
There is a big Looking for the Ocean X story about Zodiac I could drop that I don't really want to right now. Maybe
Me
if it ever
too,
comes
actually.
up again.
You don't want to drop it right now?
I have seen it once before, and the viewing experience was not optimal. So it was nice to revisit it and actually, like, take it in and actually really like it now. All right, you ready for round 2?
Yes.
All right, your 5 films. Raw, Fresh, Midsommar, May, Let Me In.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
No. But, wait, first off, which Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Oh, the OG?
The original?
Yeah.
It is not. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is in the top 25. It is actually would have been in the next group of movies if you get that far. So now I have to add another group of movies. I have to add another movie to that one. But
Wow.
yes, Texas Chainsaw is in the top 25. But it is not. And now I'm adding in the one to replace it.
Okay.
But yes, it's top 25. It's not the film. So would you like to guess again?
Sure. Is it The Hills Have Eyes?
Which one?
The original one?
It is not the original Hills Have Eyes. I'm checking to see if the original Hills Have Eyes is in this top 25. It is not in the top 25. So your next hint you get is the year, which is 2022.
Wow. Oh, boy. Skinamarink?
Skinamarink is not this film. Skinamarink is not in the top 25. So now you get the 5 additional films. So I will give you the 5 additional films, and then I will recap it. So your 5 additional films are Let the Right One In, Hannibal, Pearl, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the remake, which is why I asked for specific, even though it was going to hit it, I wanted specific.
Wow.
And then the Hellraiser remake from 2022. So all 11 of your movies, because I will also point out that you hit one, are The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was the one you hit, Raw, Fresh, Midsommar, May, Let Me In, Let the Right One In, Hannibal, Pearl, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, and the Hellraiser remake.
Is it the new Scream? I might be wrong about when that comes out.
Well, the new
came
Scream
out.
is a 2022 film. It is not the new Scream. The new Scream is not in the top 25. So now you will get the I believe we're at the actor. Yes. We're at the actor. You will get the second billed actor because you hit one film in the top 25. And I have we will see what the second billed actor is. Oh, okay. Second billed actor in this movie is Timothée Chalamet.
Is it To the Bone? Oh no, it's Bones and All. Bones and All,
Yes.
That's what it is.
It's Bones and All. And I was going to say, you were so lucky because I didn't know if he was first build or second build. Because if he was Taylor Russell, who's actually the movie's first build, but I don't think you know who she is. So it's like...
I don't... Yeah.
So I was like, I know
about
that you got
film.
him.
Cool. How was that movie?
It was fine. 3 out of 5. I like Mark Rylance in it because he's bad in it, but he's also like enjoyable. He delivers a bunch of swears in his BFG voice. So what is there not to love about that?
Very cool. I'm excited about him playing Satan in the upcoming Terrence Malick film. I didn't know about that until last night, but...
Well, you know what to say about Terrence Malick movies. You don't know if anyone's in it till they're out. So...
well.
It's true.
There you go.
All right, you ready for the final round?
Yes.
All right. Your 5 films are... The Lion King, original. Frozen 2. Corpse Bride. How to Train Your Dragon 2. The Secret of Nim. I think that's how you say it. I've never seen that movie.
That's how you say it. I've never seen it either. Five Goes West.
It is not 5 Goes West. It is 5 Goes West in the top 25. It is not in the top 25.
I'm going to guess American Pop. It's not that, but it's a movie that I've been watching lately, and I love it. I'm just saying the
American
name.
Pop?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, and it's not in the top 25.
The Ralph Bakshi deep cut.
Oh, well, it's not in the top 25. Now, the year this movie came out is 2022.
Strange World?
It's not Strange World. Strange World is not in the top 25. So you now get 5 additional movies. 5 additional movies are... Now, I'll do the recap afterwards. Beauty and the Beast, the remake, 2017. Kubo and the Two Strings. Luca. The Last Unicorn. Finding Nemo. So all 10 films are the original Lion King, Frozen 2, Corpse Bride, How to Train Your Dragon 2, The Secret of Nim, Beauty and the Beast 2017, Kubo and the Two Strings, Luca, The Last Unicorn, and Finding Nemo.
And it came out 2022?
Yes.
Because I was going to guess the new Puss in Boots.
That also came out in 2022. If you would like to guess it, I don't know what.
I'll guess that.
When did you think it came out?
I thought it came out like last week or something.
No, it came out at Christmas last year.
Okay. Yeah, Puss in Boots.
It is not Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is not in the top 25. So now you will get the first billed actor of the film. First billed actor is Gregory Mann.
Pinocchio?
Which one?
The Guillermo del Toro?
Yes, it is Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Woo, boy. You're lucky I have the Wikipedia page open while I'm watching that thing. Wow.
It is animation is cinema, right? And
I really like him in it. He's doing.
I think I have no complaints with the voice acting in Pinocchio. Well, none of the leads at least. Some of the side characters are a little. I don't know what you're doing here. But I had to remove the Zemeckis Pinocchio, which I think is amusing that it's ranked above, of course, the Disney one, which I also had to remove. So.
You don't like Tom Kenny as Mussolini?
That's not what I put aside roles. I meant like I think it's whoever plays the Stranger Things kid's dad in it. I don't like him. I think it's John Turturro who plays that role.
If I'm right, that's actually what's his name? But you know what I'm talking about, right? But that's the other guy. That's not John Turturro. He's got a smaller role.
I don't know them. But yeah.
Well.
It's Ron Perlman. Isn't it Ron Perlman?
Yeah, Ron Perlman.
Yeah, I don't like Ron Perlman in it. Even though I usually like him as a voice actor. I just don't like him in this. I don't know why. But
yeah, that's something I was noticing about Pinocchio is I love David Bradley and Gregory Mann, and they have that thing we're talking about in The Incredibles where it's like, how did they capture this thing? Not exactly to The Incredibles extent, but I'm just glad that they're really going for it.
All right,
so
that's
here we are.
Letterboxd game.
Letterboxd game.
Somehow
defeated.
making me talk about Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio again.
That was on you though. You chose that for your game.
I didn't choose it. The algorithm chose it of Letterboxd's popularity. Mark,
It's always these
why
big
are we here
corporations.
today?
We're here to talk about One Man Band, which is a
One-Man
short
Band?
film. Yeah, which is weird because it has
Orson
2
Welles,
men in it.
Incomplete Orson Welles film?
Oh man, I wish. I like this film, but anyway, One Man Band came out in 2006. It premiered at some festival, I think, and
The
I don't know why I'm
Anarchy
doing your
International
job
Animated
for you.
Film Festival.
Yeah,
Which I'm willing to bet if we actually look up a lot of these shorts, I'm willing to bet most of them actually premiered there. 'Cause that's a
Yeah.
pretty big animation festival.
yeah,
All the studios go there.
yeah. And this is the one about 2 street performers who are one-man bands, and they fight for the coin from a little girl whose name apparently is Tippy, and they are named Bass and Treble, and it's very short. And I really like this one. This is something that I remembered very fondly from my youth. So I was really glad to revisit this. I'm curious to see what you think about it, because it seems like the kind of thing that I like based on vibes, and I wonder how you like it, because there's not, like, I can think of one big plot moment, but other than that, it may not be what you dig.
See, here's the thing. I went into this remembering that I actually did like it off of vibes. I remember that I liked the music a lot. And now I'm watching this, I'm very underwhelmed by the music. I think the music is fine.
Really?
But I do think that once the big plot point happens where she's like, pay up, guys, you made me lose my coin. From that point, I'm like, yeah, this is a great ending. I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
And you
knew
what they
exactly
say,
what I was talking about. Like, the one time there's any, like, stakes and conflict, I was like, oh yeah, this is the time this short starts.
Yeah. But when that happens, I'm like, for the rest of it, I'm like, yeah, this is good. And you know what? If you nail the ending, I probably like it overall. I don't know if I'm going to give it a 3 or 2.5 on Letterboxd, but because it is kind of average for most of it to me. But it's solid. It's fine. It's fine. That's really it. Is like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's not groundbreaking, but I prefer this to... I mean, I don't know. I knew this coming in. I was like, I'm just going to like this short because it's about, Italy, and it's kind of dark colors and everyone's sad, but they're playing music and stuff like that. So I'm prepared. I don't know. I don't feel indifferent towards it. It definitely was something that I paid attention to as a child, and then growing up, you wonder how you can recreate something like that because it's such a fun performing idea. I think this is definitely something that you can see as a kid and be like, oh, I want to do that, or something like that. And you would love to be that expressive through art and that sort of thing.
I do think on paper to a child, this is an improvement on Boundin'. As an adult, I think I 100% would rather watch Boundin' any day. But to a child, this is like way more wacky, way more fun. But I feel like if it's going to go for the comedy, it should be bigger.
Yeah.
I don't think it's really that funny, other than when like they rip off the fiddle. I think that part's funny. But the vibes are immaculate, as the children do say. But I don't know, like, it's hard to talk about just because it's one of those things that's like, what is there here? I think there's the music we can talk about, obviously. There is the animation, obviously, because this is a Pixar this we talk about animation. I think this is isn't this their first short film done in this aspect ratio? Me, the aspect ratio nerds, immediately clocks that. I'm pretty sure this is their first, because even Jack Attack is done in the 1.85 aspect ratio, despite the film being wider than that. I don't think it uses that aspect ratio much at all, this short, but
I really appreciated that it had that handheld quality sometimes, like they see at the end of The Incredibles, which is just very fun. I always like a widescreen handheld.
I do think the animation models and the characters look a lot bigger. But I don't know. There are definitely. I'm trying to unlock, because I did think of stuff when I was watching, so I'm trying to unlock what that was.
You didn't have dreams as a youth to grow up and be some street performer?
I talked earlier about capitalism when referring to Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and I do think this is the perfect capitalist indictment of capitalism that we can have. is there's a girl who has $1. Oh, I remember what this reminded me of. This reminded me of Air Bud.
Wow, what? Why?
Because there's a scene at the end of Air Bud that's the only scene of Air Bud anyone remembers besides, of course, there ain't no rule in the book that says a dog can't play basketball. But there's the other scene at the end where, like, Air Bud's old owner comes back and he's like, "Come to me, Air Bud, come to me." And then Air Bud, of course, runs to the kid, and everyone in the audience cries like, "Air Bud chose his own, but the kid." And that's what it reminded me of. It's like there's a child in the middle has to pick who she wants to go to, and it's just well, I guess in this I think they're both pretty creepy, but like, yeah, I don't know, it reminds me of Air Bud. But it is also like, man, capitalism, right? This girl's got $1, and these people are so desperate for it that they're willing to fight each other for the same resource rather than being unionizing and going after the guy who dropped the giant sack in the first place.
Yeah, it really turns the workers against themselves.
Yeah. But at the end, in the post-credits scene, they learn to come together to try to get their 2 coins.
Do you have a lot of street performers up in Chicago?
Yeah. There are a couple where I definitely know where they'll always be. Like, anytime I see a show, there's always, like, the band that goes, "And the Saints go marching in," while you're leaving the theater. And there's also, like, by my house, I haven't seen him a lot recently, so maybe he moved on or something. But there used to be this drummer that was actually, like, up by my house, who I always wanted to pay, but then I never, like, if I'm driving, I don't really ever stop, sadly. Well, it's not that, I could stop, I just don't. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but, like, I just don't like ever stopping my car for anything, really. And if I'm my aunt, I'd be like, "Oh, that drummer's there again." And I'll be like, "It's good." Compared to some of the other street music we get or the other things around here, I 100% prefer this guy who's, like, going ham on these drums right now in the park. Mm-hmm. Like,
can you hear him from your apartment?
I mean, it'd be like a 15-minute walk from my apartment. It's like my drive home or my drive to Walmart. That's like a 10-minute drive, but, like, if I was to walk to Walmart, it'd be an hour walk.
Well, that's not close at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
wait,
asked,
it's not. Oh, can I side note, and then you can explain why you asked, because I do think there's. The other day, I was in my group chat, like IB, and someone asked, "Where's the farthest you ride shared?" And it's like, the rankings were like 0 to 15 miles, 15 to 30, and it kept going up. And I'm like, this question is stupid. It's idiotic. It's the dumbest question I've ever read, because you should not measure by miles in the city, because it can take me an hour to go 10 miles anywhere here even if I'm in an Uber, like in a ride share, because from here, like from my side, north side of Chicago to, I believe, even downtown, that is 15 miles. So, and that's typically, if I do ride share, about an hour drive, because you got to pick up someone else on the way. So it's like, to me, I'm like, this is an idiotic question. And the person's like, "Well, no, it's not. 15 miles is a lot of, isn't that much miles." I'm like, no, you're being dumb. I don't care where you live. This is idiotic. That's my whole point here, is like, people don't understand we shouldn't measure things by miles when it comes to, like, travel time in the city. Just judge it by travel time.
Yeah. I mean, I get where that question comes from, because I actually immediately thought of, are you talking about Ubers, or are you talking about riding with someone?
I read it as a ride share, like ordering an Uber ride share or like a Lyft ride share.
Yeah. But like ride share means you're sharing it with someone. Like, it's not yours.
Yes, it's like you can ever do it. It's like an Uber pool, Okay.
I've never actually done that, but I did.
I do that all the time.
Okay. I did once take no, I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about this, but I did once take an Uber, like, from my place out to a train station in New Jersey, which was like, I don't know, it was like a 50-minute ride, and you're going out to the country, and they'll kill you and take your watch, I don't know, and bury you among the New Jersey reeds or something like that. So I get where that's coming from, but I agree with you. If I was just thinking about, like, taking Ubers around Manhattan, it wouldn't make much sense to talk about distance or anything like that.
I will say, my Uber ride short story that I said, which is the time my drive that should have been 30 minutes to the music box became 85 minutes, and I ended up just jumping out of the Uber and ordering an Uber home, is the story. Before I tell it, I want to be very clear. I I support Pride Weekend, obviously. I've never made it out to it, actually. But last year I wanted to, and it just fell through my plans. But I wanted to go to the Music Box. This was in 2019. This was a long time ago. I wanted to go to the Music Box to catch Do the Right Thing on 35mm. And I scheduled it so that way I have, like, even with what in my mind at that time, rideshare, if anything, would add maybe 10 minutes. So I scheduled it so that way I'll arrive there about 15 minutes before the movie starts, which I think should be good enough, even with the rideshare. Like, that's what the rideshare accounted for. Like, with me saying, all right, let me add this much time to my ride. The movie, I think, starts at 11:30. I finally bail from my car at, like, 12:15. And the reason why is I got in the car first. Then they went to pick up the other passengers who were going to the Pride Parade. Uber inexplicably takes us to the Pride Parade first. And the reason that's silly is because the Music Box is north of the parade. So the Music Box is closer. Also, the reason it's dumb is because if you drive someone to the parade and Uber does not have the parade route, like, in their system, the driver kept being routed to the parade lines. And it was like, first off, even dropping these people off at the parade was impossible. For, like, it took an extra 10 minutes than it normally should. And then just trying to find a way to the Music Box, because we're on the other side of the parade, and the Music Box is on the other side of the parade. So it's just like, this is so stupid, because when you picked them up, we were on the side of the Music Box. And it's a parade, too. You can come from a parade from either side. Like...
Yeah.
That's my rideshare story.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to tell the one about, you got into a firefight or something.
Oh, well, there was one time a cop
wrong?
started screaming at my driver.
Oh, yeah.
That was scary. Because she honked at him and she didn't know it was a police officer. But yeah. But what were you going to say about street performers?
I was just going to ask if you have them, because I was thinking about, like, this isn't, the short does not really bring this up. Like, I had to watch the short twice and kind of get some thoughts about it. But I did notice about that, like, they're very polite street performers, actually. Like, I find I enjoy some street performances, and then the majority of them, I'm like, they trap you in your subway car, and then they'll, like, get mad at you if you don't pay them. And it's like, sometimes I pay them, but, like, I don't know. I just noticed that about this film, is that they seemed like very, I don't know, just being out in the middle of nowhere, and then actually, like, this is very harsh, like, actually trying to play better to get someone's attention to get their money, versus what people normally do, which is, like, they'll have, like, their music playing behind them on the speaker or something, and then they'll be, like, yelling at you to pay them instead of singing. But, like, I don't know, man. I have a complicated relationship with that sort of thing. But and that's why I asked, as I was like, what are your thoughts? But
I know what you're talking about, of course, with, like, oh no, someone walked in my subway car, now they're asking me for money. Here we have, it's called the L, though, but but actually, weirdly enough, I don't usually encounter street performers that way. I think maybe it's happened once here. I don't know why, there just isn't usually street performance on the L's. There's just beggars, which, you know, you get everywhere. But, like, it's really, like, in the theater district I encounter street performers. And maybe it's also, like, you know, you remember more around the time that, like, something is happening, right? And it's winter right now, so of course the street performers aren't really out anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Whenever I'm in New York, I see way more street performers than that I do here. But also it's because it's New York and it's way more dense anyway. I think you see no more street performers in New York probably than, well, in LA you see the people who are dressed up as, like, Spider-Man, who take a picture of you and they go, like, that's $40. Like, that's what you get with, and then you have some of that in Times Square too, I know, but not to the extent I've seen in LA.
Well, I know in LA they also have, like, skateboarders and rollerbladers and everyone who's out there, but I don't know, that's not like...
I don't think I've ever seen that personally. That sounds like something that's, like, in a movie.
No, well, I had two rollerbladers live in my apartment for a while. That was
You
like,
lived in
that was
LA?
their deal. No, here. They came in and they were doing a show in New York and they lived in one of our rooms.
Oh, cool.
That's really neither here nor there because they were doing a gig and it wasn't like busking or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I know about that. I think it's in New York and it's in LA and I don't know, it's in a few other places. It's something I would love to do, honestly. It's like a goal of mine is to put together some kind of performance that could be done in a busking way. But the big thing that keeps me from doing is I think there has to be some, you know, what's the non-obnoxious way to get people to come watch you? Where can you be so that people can see you, but you're not like invading their space, you know? And
The Disney
then there's
store.
of course like having an act, but the
Sorry, I just
Disney
made a dumb
store?
joke. The Disney store, like,
Is that what they do? They're like
No.
in your way, or
you could do it at like that pizza
what
place
about
you took
the
me
Disney
to.
store?
Like
No.
that area would be good. No, that area's terrible. That park's bad.
Well, I mean, it's kind of. I
park
think
by
like
the
Central
pizza place,
Park
not
is
the
a
pizza
better
place
place
itself.
for it because, yeah. Well, even the park by the pizza place, that's a very small park. That's my problem with like street performances, is the audience should be able to leave, and so you're kind of that's my issue. Is like you need to be able to have people like walk by you or avoid you if they don't want to listen to you. And that's my problem with. I mean, I don't think you should take people hostage in subway cars, no matter what. But outside, it's kind of difficult. Sometimes in subway stations, I think there are places that people set up that are like, okay, you know, you can like go around people and they're kind of at hubs, but you can still avoid them if you want to. That's an important thing for me as an audience member. I should be able to leave.
we should actually not anymore because Drake Bell's probably going to jail. But our Drake and Josh play would have been like a Suedo street performance kind of, even though it was a house performance.
What?
Do you remember our Drake and Josh play we kept pitching?
What about it though?
It's kind of actually the opposite of street performance, actually, when I'm thinking about it. Because I said it, I was like, that's kind of like what we were saying we were going to do in college. But I'm like, well, no, literally it's the opposite. Because it's that I'd be inviting them into my own home where they could leave at any time, sure, but it's my house, right? So,
Yeah.
for the listeners who are unaware, Mark and I had this, well, was it both of us? I think we both had this idea. Or was it like something where I was pushing it more? I don't know. But it was like we'd
I think
write
we
a
both had it.
22-minute long play. What?
I think we both had it.
Okay. It was right,
We were
right,
both
a
we were both
22-minute
contributing bits and things.
Yeah, it was a 22-minute long play where it's called Drake and Josh Has an Existential Crisis, where the bit would be that obviously Mark is Drake and I am Josh. And we'd open it like a typical Drake, like we'd find a Drake and Josh episode to like just rip the opening of it and then like have them being like, wait a second, this sounds like something I said before. And it'd be about them discovering that they're in a rerun of an episode. But the actual bit of it to me was that it would be performed in our house where we'd like take down sightlines where it's like, just make sure we can use this area, but you guys can stand wherever you want to watch this. You can we want you to follow us around and watch this. But then when the commercial breaks would come, we would just freeze in place for like 3 minutes, and then we'd come back and we'd like do the part where it's like they repeat the line that was just before.
I remember we couldn't figure out how to end it. That seems to be the big
Yeah.
issue. Was like, what is the resolution?
I mean, the resolution should be, honestly, now that I'm thinking about it now, here's how I'd resolve it now, is you think it's over, but then 5 minutes later, the whole thing starts over again, and it's like, oh my god, they're just repeating the same episode we were just in. And then you have a nice little 2-act structure to it, and then you find a way to end that now that, like, there's no acceptance, there's a way to try to break the cycle instead.
Yeah,
Maybe
actually,
the second time you run through the episode.
yeah, I actually am thinking of a spectacular thing that could be part of it, but I don't want to say it on air in case we dig this
We
up
ever
again.
do this?
Yeah, well, because I
Well,
thought we
I think if
never
we
could
ever
figure
do
out how
it,
to
we
end
have
it, but
to-
now I think I might like, oh, this is an actual thing that might be a way to end it. But
I will say that I think if we ever did do it, now I'd want to pick a different basis show.
Yeah.
Just 'cause Drake Bell is yeah.
This is what happens if you miss out on these moments in time when people haven't been canceled yet, so you can't make fun of them. But yeah.
I mean, I think there's plenty of other options. We could even just switch to iCarly, even though we're men, so maybe not iCarly, but I'm sure there are other options.
The Spencer and Freddie episode. Where is everybody?
Well,
Why are we here?
We had Megan in ours. We had an idea of having Megan in ours, and we had an actor in mind for it. But yeah.
So are you Spencer or am I Spencer and you're Freddie?
I mean,
I feel like
I don't know. I think
Spencer.
we're both Spencer. That's the thing. Our identity, I think we both would be. Whereas Drake and Josh is so obvious you're Drake and I'm Josh, especially because you can play the guitar. But like for Freddie, I think I'm shorter than you, but you need to be like really short to be Freddie. I hate to be like body type casting, but I do think like he should be really small. Because here's the thing: is like Spencer is like the gawky weirdo. So that would be what I normally play, but I don't think that Freddie should be taller than Spencer. That's where I'm at. I don't think it makes a good stage image. So, whereas Drake and Josh, it's obvious like, okay, I'm the more like because it's also like we had this bit where it's like the theme, we would sing the theme song together, but like you would sing it like decently and like playing the guitar, and I just do like Josh being like dancing badly to it and be like, if you open up your mind, like like do it really bad and like that.
Oh yeah, I remember
bit.
we learned that. You know what we
like, ooh, what we could have done the second time with like the theme song? I'd be like, no, stop playing the guitar, stop it, knock it off. You'd be like, I can't stop playing the song, and we just have the backing track going of it.
What if each act is us doing a different set of characters? Like it starts with Drake and Josh, then it's Spencer and Freddie, but then it's in the third act it's Sam and Kat, which I've never seen.
I've never seen Sam and Kat.
But like that seems like the next leap.
Well, I think the answer is, I think the better way to do this high concept one is you start with Drake and Josh, but then you go to a different. You pretend the channel was switched, and so you can't be someone from Nickelodeon. You got to be like, Zach and Cody, right? Like I think that's the end. Like second act is your Zach and Cody, and then maybe the third act. I don't know, this is off my head. The third act, we get Julius to show up as playing Andrew WK. And it's being like, it's destroy, build, destroy. We're like, oh my god, it's a game show now. Like it's a bad live action Cartoon Network game show.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's fine, but I think it should be Julius's dream. I think no matter what.
That's just the reveal. Is at the end, like we go like, maybe this is it, and we just lead the audience to Julius's bedroom where Julius is asleep, and then Julius suddenly wakes up, and we just disappear. And Julius goes, "That was weird." He looks at the audience like, "Boy, what a Charlie Brown dream! It's all right now."
So he wakes up and he doesn't know the name of the show.
He's like, I just had a great dream about The Sopranos.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, are we done talking about One Man Band?
No, I think we can talk about it more. We can get back to there's some more stuff to talk here, I think. I do. Like one thing I want to mention, which isn't really about the short, but I do think the Wikipedia page is interesting. So if you look at the Wikipedia page, obviously there's a poster on top, and you scroll down, and there's a picture of the co-director in 2006. Are you looking at this?
Yeah. I remember he was like wearing some top button unbuttoned shirt. That's all I remember about it.
Yeah, I'm just confused why he has a picture on this page.
I don't know. Does he have a picture? Does he have his own page? That's what I wondered when I saw that. Is like, does he have his own?
I don't think he does.
Page?
But what's weird is he is actually, I believe, I will double check. I believe he's an Oscar-nominated filmmaker for a film he did. We'll get to it. Don't worry. It is on our detour list. Mm-hmm. But I believe he's Oscar-nominated for a short film he directed, like on his own, away from Pixar. Yeah, he is. For a film called Weekends, we'll eventually get to and cover. But, so I think it's interesting he doesn't have a page. I mean, I get why, because you know what Mark Andrews goes on to do, right?
Yeah, brave.
Yeah, he kicks Brenda Chapman off Brave, going, "This is a man's studio." Burning that bridge to get that guest if he ever wants to come on.
He should come on and explain himself.
Be like, how are you? Like, imagine we keep inviting people on, like actual filmmakers on top of Pixar, and like half the people go like, "So how complicit were you in the whole Laster thing?" And I was just like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "No, we're serious. Like, we want to know." And they're just like, like it's constantly like we do that.
I don't want to get into fights with people.
It'd be exciting though. I do also want to mention, even though I guess it's kind of self-explanatory, I missed something watching this on Disney Plus. Did you miss it too? The dubbing credits. I missed them.
There are no
They're
dubbing
my favorite
credits.
part.
There's no audio.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I missed them. It would
Yeah.
have been nice to have them.
Oh, well then. Fun fact, I believe it's either the end credits music or it's like included is the music that is played at some point during the short is called Zigeunerweisen. It's also the name of a Seijun Suzuki movie from like the 80s or something. So that was cool.
I also thought...
I really like the music.
I like the music at the end where I guess that's the song you're talking about. I'm not really a big fan of the Giacchino score. I think it's fine. I think it's definitely out of his comfort zone. But I feel like a score, a short like this should have like something that like afterwards I'm humming to myself. You know? If it's like this big jazzy one man like band thing. I should be able to like think afterwards like I should have I'm trying to think of it like I don't know. I was like, do actually these shorts have any catchy songs besides Boundin'? And of course Lava when we get to Lava.
Well, I think that it's so character-based, and it's about moving the plot forward. I would be kind of surprised if it had something really catchy.
I do think there's one really fantastic joke in here. I already kind of mentioned the beginning of it, but it's like... The girl points to the violin. She wants the violin. The other guy snatches it off. But that's not what's funny. What's funny is her playing it and realizing it's out of tune. Because it's a joke that's not really funny if you're a kid, but if you're an adult, it's like, haha, that guy has been playing an out-of-tune violin this entire time on his, like, one-man band thing.
That doesn't make any sense, because we've heard him play fine.
But it's funny! Rule of funny.
What is this rule of funny that you always whip out when there's, like, a joke that has a punchline, but it doesn't really... There's no setup?
I mean, my punchline, personally, is always, it's funny... Because it's rule of funny. You know what I realized recently? I don't know if I started doing it on this podcast.
That's exactly what I mean.
I don't know if I started doing it on this podcast, if I started doing it somewhere else. I don't know where I picked this up. I don't know who I'm mimicking. But I've realized a lot recently, like, at work, and I think on here, I'll be like, you know, there's this bit, it's funny. And I just, like, move on, and I say funny like that. Like, it is designed, like, I'm referring to the bit as funny, like, you know, it's the funny part of it, and then we just move on. I don't know where I picked up, like, the weird pronunciation of it. I don't know who I'm mimicking. It's driving me a little crazy on the inside.
I don't know. Maybe we'll encounter it. This seems like one of those deep things that you wouldn't know exactly where, but it's, like, far in your childhood.
I think it's something recent. Like, a part of me thought, about the podcast that must not be...
It sounds like Christoph Waltz.
It might be. I was thinking it might be, one of the hosts on the podcast I'm not allowed to talk about on the show, but you know, I've been listening to a lot of it recently, and I'm like, no, he doesn't say it. He doesn't ever say something like that. He goes like, you know, it's funny, but he doesn't do that. It's funny, which is what I like.
The more you talk about it, the more I feel like I've heard that before. Originally, I was like, what do you mean? But now I'm like, wait, no, that is.
Maybe we'll find it out. What will we find out first? This or whatever the Flash game that I played growing up that reminded me of Straw's Fun Special Tune.
I never want to think about that again. Man. Wow. Now it's in my head. I don't know. Oh, we'll think about it.
Well, you know, it's funny. So, before
Shall we give this film something?
Well, we can give it something, but I do want to do one thing. Well, we can give it something, then we can do what I want to do before we're done. So, yeah, we'll give it something. Okay. I will give it an inexplicable. So okay, so the Criterion Collection just announced their new DVDs for the next month. I don't know if you saw this. They're doing a 4K release of The Fisher King and
oh yeah, they're putting
else.
out Small Axe.
Well, that was a good one I was excited about. They're putting out, but they're doing a release of Fisher King and something else that I can't remember right now. Maybe I should look it up so I'm not stupid. But it is like a title that like obviously was already in their collection.
Seal.
Yeah, Seventh Seal. Yeah. That one's like that's the most obvious. Yeah, but then they're also doing Triangle of Sadness, which I'm like, come on. I guess it won the Palm, but like that's probably one of the worst Palm winners I've seen. Granted, I haven't watched a lot of Palm winners, but I'm sure
I really need to watch Triangle of Sadness. I love that guy's other films.
If you like Triangle of Sadness, Mark, I will come after you because I think it does everything you complain Knives Out does, but way worse.
I believe that's possible.
So
have you seen The Square?
No, I haven't. I do like Force Majeure. I've seen Force Majeure.
Because I don't like Force Majeure, but I love The Square.
Well, I haven't seen The Square.
Maybe this will just tear us apart, okay. And that's all, you know?
I'll be honest. Here's the thing. And I've said this to people before, and maybe it makes me xenophobic. I don't think so. I think it's just a fact of life and how I like watching movies.
This is the third time you've done this episode. You're like, what? I don't mean to be homophobic, but you've like done 3 different things like this. What on earth? Is this about Finnish people?
I don't like watching foreign movies or docs at home. I can't pay attention to them. It's so hard for me. I find it so hard to pay attention to them at home. Personally.
I prefer foreign movies because I cannot tell if people are acting well or not.
I mean, I like foreign movies in general. But I just like seeing them at the theater. Like, I know a lot of people who are defending Bardo. I don't know if I'm actually going to bother to get around to it or not, but I do have it penciled on my calendar. Like, this is the night a theater downtown is showing Bardo. If you want to see Bardo, this is when I will go see it. If I want to see Bardo, this is when I'll go see it, because I know I cannot watch a 3-hour Inarritu film. Honestly, in general at home, like, because Inarritu's not a filmmaker I can be into that much, but especially when it's like, I'm going to be reading the whole time. I can't do that at home. I'm just too sleepy when I'm, like, in my room, and I'm like, ugh. Like, I can't pay, like, I remember I tried to watch last year, I bring this up because I wanted to watch The Square before Triangle of Sadness. I just couldn't find a time where I'd be awake enough for it. And last year I tried to watch The Great Beauty because The Hand of God was a big movie. And I just kept falling asleep during it. And I tried to watch, before I watched Broker this year, I tried to watch Moborosi, which I'm sure is a great film, but I kept falling asleep during it. And I can't stay awake at home. I don't know why.
Canceled.
Yeah. This
is so wild because truly I feel like, I don't know, this has never really come up for us. I feel like if it weren't for foreign films, I would have so little to watch.
I mean, I barely watch anything at home anyway. Right now I'm watching Brendan Fraser movies at home. And Pixar movies for this podcast.
What if Bong Joon Ho just like burst through your window right now, like the end of Friday the 13th Part 2?
You know, I would gladly be made fun of by Bong Joon Ho. I think what I'm saying is not it is bad, but I don't think it's that. I think me yelling at Guillermo del Toro for not campaigning for a different movie in this episode is way worse than me saying I found it hard to watch a movie with subtitles at home, because I find watching a movie with subtitles in the theater phenomenal. I'm always like, I saw Broker in a theater, it was fantastic. I saw EO, loved it. I think my top 10 of the year right now currently has like 3 foreign films on it, which is incredibly unusual for me to like actually have seen that many. And I'm like, yeah, no, this is great. All Quiet, I think, is the 3rd one off the top of my head. 4! If Decision to Leave is also there too. And like all these movies I love watching in theater, but like it's like, do you want to rewatch Decision to Leave at home because you have Movie? And I'm like, do I? Like, that's really where it is. Like, do I want to rewatch Decision to Leave at home? Can't we just re-release it after it gets that Oscar?
That's so crazy. Like, how I connect with my girlfriend is we'll, like, send each other some Korean film the other one has seen, like, 1 billion times, and it's like, all right, prepare to read Korean subtitles or whatever. Like, but again, you're worried. Not to just hammer home every way in which I
feel like you're responding just like I'm
films.
like, I don't watch foreign films. Why would I want to do that? Which is not what I'm saying.
No, I don't know. It's intriguing. I'm not going to cancel you.
I'm sure whenever Mickey 7 comes out, I will try to watch ever The Host or Memories of Murder at Home. But like, I have Drive My Car on Criterion. I have no intention to ever really open that. I saw that movie 3 times in theaters.
R.I.P. So what are you gonna give?
Oh wait, yeah. So the Criterion, the Criterions, all right. So what I will do for One Man Band is I won't give. You know what? I won't give it a Criterion, obviously, because it's a short film. Why would I do that? But what I will do is give it a limited press from Mondo of the soundtrack on vinyl, because even if I don't really like the soundtrack, I think it'd be cool to have like a little vinyl pressing of it. That's basically it. That's where I was leading with that, is like Mondo is kind of like the vinyl, like the movie soundtrack Criterion, I feel like, for vinyl.
Interesting. You're such a
soundtrack
guy.
Well, I don't collect vinyl, but I just always look at their covers and I'm like, ooh, I wish I collected vinyl.
I'm gonna give it that copy of Small Axe because I
want a copy of Small Axe when it's on sale.
I mean, you can have one too if you like, but you know.
How much does it retail for? I'm curious. I'm gonna look it up right now because I'm sure it
gonna
costs more than the average. What?
$50.
Oh, that's a good deal. That's a really good deal for Small Axe. I assumed it'd be like 60 or 70.
I just made that number up.
Oh, it's 80, dude.
It's 80?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it'll be 40 during the sale, so.
Well, I'm going to give it Small Axe because despite 1 or 2 quibbles, I overall had a positive experience and I recommend it.
I like Small Axe too. 4 out of 5 movies I think I gave like a 4 or higher to. I don't like Alex Wheatle.
Yeah. I think that's the one that everyone is kind of like, meh.
But I thought Education... Fantastic. My thing was with that is I feel like Alex Wheatle made a lot of people give up on it. I think Education is arguably like the second best in the collection. Education like moves me tremendously emotionally. A lot of people are like, why is there a 5-minute sequence of just House of the Rising Sun? I'm like, no, it's beautiful cinema. I love this. This is great. Yeah. Anyway, Education is good. Everyone should check out that. Everyone should just check out Small Axe in general. Honestly, it's really great.
Yeah. I don't know if I could like recommend, because each episode I liked for a different reason.
Yeah, I mean, you should watch really the whole thing, but I just like, it's really more like, if you don't like Alex Wheatle, please continue. Like, don't just stop. Watch. A lot of people I feel like only watch the first 3 because they heard Alex Wheatle was bad. That's kind of it, you know?
I'll tell you, I've watched everything except for Alex Wheatle, but I skipped over it.
But I'm glad you watched Education. I feel like a lot of people didn't watch Education, is my point.
Yeah.
So, I did want to add something at the end, which might be a little annoying to you to jump back to Letterboxd game, but I have been doing this recently. I want to keep up with it. I like it. Saying in the movies I'm removing from options that were like the runners-up to being most popular. Can I say that? The movies I have to remove now that won't be in these lists anymore, from popular to least popular. So I also think it's interesting to like examine like the Letterboxd popularity thing, because I do think it's like, so the ones I'm removing are After Sun, Babylon, Ticket to Paradise, Strange World, Lyle Crocodile, Anti-Meme, and Scrooge. That's from most popular, least popular. I think
you saw Lyle Crocodile?
I thought it was great. Javier Bardem is on my supporting actor ballot.
Wow. That movie was like posting casting things around here forever.
You should watch the opening scene of Lyle Crocodile, because you'll 100% understand immediately why I'm like, okay, like this is fun. Because it's like, most people would cast Hugh Jackman or like Ryan Reynolds in that role. And this movie's like, nah, we're going to get Javier Bardem in this. And he completely commits to it. And it's such a joy to see him like playing a fun role, you know? Because dude's always either in like bad Oscar bait or like really heavy dramas, I feel like. Or he's a Bond villain. Or he's a blockbuster villain in general. So it's like, it's nice to see him like in a mainstream movie just playing a wacky street performer.
I dig it. All right.
Yeah.
What do we do next time?
All right. Next time, you would think we're getting to Cars. Nope! Because Cars releases on... I guess I should have left it open because I was going to say June 6th, I feel like it comes out on... No, it doesn't, because June 6th is on... June 6th is 666. I don't think that was going to happen for a Disney movie. Mm-hmm. Wow, Cars came out the same weekend as The Omen. Think about that. Okay, so Cars opens on June 9th, 2006. However, there's a film that premieres at the Anarchy International Animation Film Festival on June 5th, 2006, called Ollie's Chance. This is a Detour episode. And it's a film that's co-directed by someone we really like on this podcast, Sascha Unseld.
All right, great.
So we'll be watching Ollie's Chance.
Awesome, that'll be great.
On Detour. Yep. And then after that, of course, is Cars. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Pay your street performers. Looking for the Ocean is produced by Mark Young and Danny Vincent. Our original artwork was done by Sarah Knopf, and each episode is edited by me.
If you'd like to be notified about new episodes, you can find us on Facebook at Looking for the Ocean: A Pixar Journey, on Twitter at Pixar Journey, on Instagram at Looking for the Ocean Pod, and on our website, lookingfortheoceanpixar.podbean.com.
If you want to know what I'm up to, or find me on social media, you can head over to markyoungperformer.com.
And if you'd like to see all my takes on all the movies, you can find me on Letterboxd at Blankmans. If you'd like to hear me on another podcast, I also have The Snub Club, a podcast about film history. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.